With the first pick in the 2024 NFL Draft.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Miller, joined as always by my co-host, Corey Kinnan. And I'm just going to get out there and ask it today. Corey, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. But it felt weird to go back to work on a Monday after a long weekend, but we fought through. We got our workout in. We're ready to record. I even streamed a little bit of College Football 26 on its early release day today. So
Yeah, how's the game?
It's pretty similar to last year.
Yeah,
it's pretty similar to last year gameplay wise. Some of the recruiting stuff is a bit different, and the point values are different across the board and stuff like that. But yeah,
I like that. Listen, I don't really care about playing all that much. I'm a recruiter to the to the grave, so I understand that. Guys, today we are Penn State. That's what we're talking about today. I'm sorry, I'm a Pennsylvania guy. It is the way that it has to be. I am not a Penn State fan per se, but literally all of my friends went to Penn State. They all went to branch campuses and then did their final 2 years at Penn State. I have a lot of what should probably be memories from Penn State. They are a little bit foggy. It is what it is. We are going to talk about their offense today. We're going to come back. We're going to do a Dafter draft tomorrow. And then the next day, we are going to hit up their defense. And we have a lot of, we're just going to get into it. We have a lot of names to talk about. And we have a lot of hard truths to tell today.
Yes,
and
we do.
We're just going to start at the top.
Yeah.
Whatever you think, and I'm just gonna take this real quick, and then I'll let you, because I'm gonna go quick, and then I'm gonna let you absolutely unload.
Okay, sounds good.
All I'm gonna say about 15, Drew Allar. If you squint real freaking hard, Big Ben. If you open up your eyes and you watch him play football, Blaine Gabbert, like bad Blaine Gabbert, like after rookie year Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah.
Guys, he's a wreck. He's a mess.
He's a mess.
Which really stinks because the arm is there. A lot of like the quick-wittedness in the offense and getting the ball out and all that is there. Everything else is just a huge, jumbling, fluffy mess. And that's all I'm going to say because we have the guy who has watched every single one of his dropbacks beside me here.
Yeah. I even think some of the quick-wittedness stuff is very schemed open, and like the answers are kind of given to him. When he's forced to kind of think, it's not pretty. When he's forced off his spot by pressure, it's not pretty. I think he's athletic enough to do the bare minimum. I don't think he's a good athlete by any sense of the words.
He's Big Ben athletic.
Yeah.
Like he's just really big.
He'll fall forward. But he is, he reminds me of the, when he tries to run the giraffe from Madagascar. I don't know if you've watched Madagascar anytime soon.
It's been years.
Anytime recently. But he reminds me of the David Schwimmer voiced giraffe from Madagascar a little bit. He's one of the least accurate quarterbacks in this class. There are like three guys that I've charted that are least like lower in their accuracy rate than him. But he's in a very schemed up offense. And I understand we got to talk about the receivers that he's been throwing to over the past few years. Like I understand it. But the guy, especially when he's forced off the spot, cannot hit the broadside of the barn. And it's worth he's opting to throw off of really awful bases in clean pockets all of the time. His lower half is a disaster. I clicked and posted one on Twitter in the Notre Dame game. He's got He's got Nick Singleton on a wheel route wide open.
Oh, that was such a frustrating throw.
And he's got plenty of time to set his feet and throw the football. And he throws off this like fadeaway leaning to his right platform and overshoots Singleton by like 5 yards over his head. And it's like, what? Why? And what's even more concerning, there are some quarterbacks who don't have an ounce of private quarterback coaching until they get to the NFL. There are some guys that just like they weren't privy to it in high school. And then in college, some of the college programs, a lot of these times have bigger opinions than NFL teams do. Drew Allar has had intensive private quarterback coaching since he was in the 9th grade.
I have to interject here.
Go for it.
Sometimes private coaches suck too.
That's very true. Might be time for a change for him.
Yeah, I think it certainly is time for a change. I don't know who his coach is. I don't mean to.
He's an Ohio guy. His name's Brett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mean to bash his coach because I don't know who he is. But yeah. Not good.
For as intensely as that kid has been coached since he was in the 9th grade, for his fundamentals to be as bad as they are, it's brutal. It's brutal. I think this is like your 3rd round take a shot on tools quarterback, and I wouldn't take him before that right now.
I don't know if I would take him before that. I think he's a day 3 guy for me.
I have him as a day 3 grade. Quarterbacks always get a little bit of a bump, but yeah, that's what I feel about 15 from Penn State. There's not much about his game that I would buy into right now, other than he has a big arm. That's about it right now for me.
I think that's totally fair. Totally fair.
I don't get it.
No, neither do I. Let's move on though. Let's move on to the another controversial topic for some reason. These running backs.
Yeah.
Why is this a controversial topic?
I have no idea. There's a large base out there that does not seem to think that Nick Singleton is a good running back, which I struggle with that. I do think that there are times when like who was the running back we just talked about? Wisner from Texas. I think Singleton has a little bit of that Pacheco in his running style as well.
100%.
Where he just runs like super heavy. With Singleton, I do think that he probably presses a little bit too much. Like that's my one complaint. He presses too much. It's like, dude, just chill. Let your blockers get out in front of you a little bit and then get moving. And so I can get it from that aspect of like, yeah, he's very impatient as a runner, but he's hella explosive. He'll pass pro like an MFer, and he's a legitimate weapon in the passing game. Like you can split him out. You can let him rip the seam open. You can there's a million ways to get the ball in his hand and get him involved.
And I think another big thing when it comes to all of this is that a lot of the times that's what he was asked to do in this
because the wide receivers were so bad last year.
Well, like he was split out and then just coming in jet and taking the ball in jet and running outside. So like I think a lot of people sit on the Katron Allen thing because he played more like legitimate running back snaps. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas when they were both on the field together, Singleton was used more as a gadget guy. So I think the perception is that he's like lesser of the backs because of that as well.
Yeah. If we just disregard the fact that Katron Allen's going to struggle to break 4.7. You can love everything else about Katron Allen. Find me more than
the second level vision. The second level vision isn't there for me with him.
Oh no, not at all.
I watched him run into a couple wide receivers out in space instead of just scooting around them.
Right, but I'm saying you can love everything else. Find me 4 running backs in the NFL who run a 4.7.
You won't find 2. People love Katron Allen because he's a really good college running back.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's a really good college running back, because that dude, he don't want to go down.
Mm-mm.
He does not want to go down. And it is so much fun to watch a guy break 2 or 3 tackles and gain 7 or 8 yards.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, man. He has no juice. None. And at the NFL level, I don't care how talented of a running back you are. Shout out to Najee Harris. If you don't have the juice, you're not worth the squeeze.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is one of those situations where I wish like tracking data was more available than it is.
To the masses, yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Yeah. Because I would love to see what the GPS data says on that.
Yeah,
guy.
man. Like, and another thing we didn't bring up about Singleton is his receiving ability.
I did.
Oh, I thought you were talking about his pass blocking. I missed that. You
pass blocking and like
over.
Yeah, he can rip up a seam. You can split him out. You can motion him out. He'll create mismatches all over the field. Man.
Oh, what he did to Oregon a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Disgusting. Those Texas routes were disgusting.
Yep. So yeah, I get it with Singleton. He's impatient as a runner. That needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, the kid's good.
Mm-hmm.
The kid's good.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to move on? Do you want to talk about the receivers or the linemen first? Let's
just get the receivers out of the way.
Yeah, let's get the receivers out of the way, because we'll talk about, there is some good to talk about on the offensive line. Which way? Let's talk about my favorite wide receiver first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trevor Pena. All of these guys are transfers, by the way, from other schools, because Penn State can't find wide receivers to save their lives. I don't think Trevor Pena is more than like a round 6 or 7 guy at best, just because I don't think he's a very good athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a freaking dog, man. He was so much fun to watch at Syracuse. He had a gunslinger who would push the ball. I think he's really good around the line of scrimmage, and I think that he is really good in contested situations for his size. And I think he's like 6'1", so he's not a small like slot type receiver. To me, he kind of reminded me of Jacoby Myers. He's just like a dude who like finds ways to win even when it's like really cloudy. I don't think the most deceptive route runner. I don't think he's the most naturally quick footed route runner or the most explosive. But yes, he just kind of wins. And it's a lot of fun to watch him win at Syracuse. And I think that when it comes to Penn State, I think that he will probably be the guy who gets the most play.
Oh, yeah.
And is the most consistent out of all of these guys, even if the other guys have higher NFL potential than him.
I agree with that. Going back and watching McCord last year, it's third and Pena a lot of the times in that offense. So he's very reliable, but I do think he's very much the same mold of, like, I would have said Xavier Restrepo, like from Miami last year, like those kind of tough. He's not very big, which is like why I would put him in that. He's not as bad of an athlete as Restrepo either, but he's not a great athlete, as you said. But Allard needs somebody, and I think Pena is going to be that guy. They've got another 5-star tight end too, so that'll help out for Drew Allar as well. But as far as the wide receiver room, it still is an island of misfit toys, perhaps an upgraded island of misfit toys, but still an island of misfit toys.
Yeah. Do we want to move on to the little guy who can't catch, or the big guy who can't move or catch?
Let's do the big guy that can't catch or move. Yeah.
All right, let's get to it. Kyron Hudson. I didn't list any strengths. A first guy off of the bus type. That's like literally it. I don't think he's a particularly explosive athlete. I think he's somebody who is forced to win with his frame, and that's okay. So there's a strength. I think he's very good at using his frame to create separation, like NFL level separation.
Yeah.
And finish through contact. The problem is he can't finish through freaking contact. He can't catch the ball. Like, cannot catch the ball. If he is contacted, the ball is on the ground. If he goes to the ground, the ball is on the ground. And so Penn State fans are going to be really, really, really upset with this guy if he shows that same sort of inconsistency as a ball winner in Happy Valley.
Yeah, Penn State's got the market cornered of really high recruits who just aren't very good football players that don't live up to their billing. They transferred in Julian Fleming from Ohio State last year, who was like one of the highest recruited wide receivers in college and out of high school in recent years. And the dude was kind of the same way. Can't play through contact at all. Kyron Hudson, a really high recruit, and there's a reason he has 72 total targets in 4 seasons at USC. Like, there's a reason for this. Can't play through contact at all. Subpar ability to even win above. Like, if you are 6'2" and you can't separate, you have to be able to win above the rim. And even then, that's not a great calling card to bet on at the NFL level. He can't even do that. Like, so, yeah. I think that's it for Kyron Hudson. Just one of those bigger dudes who's gonna go undrafted by the time he gets to the NFL. Yep.
All right, little guy, Devontae Ross. Hyperactive feet, great acceleration, great breaks. Showed an understanding as a boundary guy of attacking blind spots when guys were giving him cover 3 leverage. I think he's got some manipulation in his ability as a route runner, and he has the natural separation quickness because of those feet. His hands are horrific, like horrific.
Yeah.
He's undersized and has incredibly unimpressive play strength overall.
Yep. For some reason, the interwebs don't want to work up for me. I was going to look up what his drops rate was in 2024. I bet I can get it. But yeah, I don't have anything to add to these wide receivers. He's a decent athlete compared to Kyron Hudson. But yeah, I mean, is this the best that Penn State can pull out of the portal? And they got lucky because Trevor Pena was a late spring portal entry because he went to Syracuse and was like, hey, give me $1 million. And they said no. And so he left, is the whole reason he's at Penn State. So they got kind of lucky there. But yeah, as far as an upgrade from last year, it's probably minimal. Got me throwing
9 drops last year.
9 drops. Yeah, not great. On how many targets?
117. Yeah, an 11% drop rate.
Jeez, yeah, not great. So that's where we sit with these Penn State wide receivers. Not a great staple.
And the other problem I have with Ross is even though he is hyperactive with his feet, and they give him a ton of manufactured touches right at the line of scrimmage on screens. The yak isn't there. You can't be a small dude like that with bad hands and not yak.
Right. Yep. Completely agree. All right, let's talk about these offensive linemen because there's a couple decent guys on this offensive line, in my opinion. There's draftable talent on the offensive line.
There is, and I think we're going to argue about one of them, which we don't argue very much. Do we want to get the argument out of the way?
Are you talking about the right tackle?
We are talking about the right tackle.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Nolan Ritchie. Talk about him.
I think he's a big-time waist bender. I saw some pretty big balance issues. I thought he was like a pretty good athlete in his set, but no noticeable punch and a pretty big waist bender.
Ooh,
like that turns me off.
Here's the thing about the punch, and here's the thing about the punch, and we're going to talk about it. I think he's really advanced with his hands. I think that a lot of the times he really sets defenders up to strike early because he throws the fake. He throws a little two-hand fake. I will get with you on there's a little bit of waist bending, but the waist bending for me doesn't come in 1v1 situations. The waist bending for me, from what I saw, was when he was trying to pass off like defensive line games.
Okay.
He would drop his head a little bit, and he didn't have a great connection with the right guard. And that is something that I do not like to see for sure. I also thought, like you said, good athlete. I thought that his ability to mirror and match was very good. I thought that he ran guys up the arc pretty well. I don't love his. So I talked about his hands, and I do want to say, like, I don't love his hands overall when he actually does get to the strike and his grip strength overall. But I like his deployment of his hands in pass pro. And I think that he is an adequate pass protector overall. I also thought that there were times in the run game where I was really impressed with him as well, especially with the athleticism. And I thought that overall, just his cognitive ability was there in the run game along with that. So, like, for me, Shelton is a guy who I could see being, that day 2, day 3 guy, where if you improve his hands a little bit and you keep him cognizant against those defensive line games and keep him from bending the waist in those situations when he's trying to run guys off, I do think that you could round out a starter there at the NFL level. But right now he's a guy that you take, late day 2, early day 3.
Yeah, I'm pretty firm on the day 3 thing there with Rucci, I think. Let's move to the other offensive tackle, Drew Shelton, though. Dude's an athlete. Drew Shelton was a mixed bag for me. He's got second round grades from places like NFS and Blesto. I think he's more of a mid rounder, based on what I saw. Like, I saw a really great athlete, crosses face really well, scoops out really well. Like, very smooth mover, climbing to the second level and getting out into space as well. I saw a lot of flexibility, but here's my issue: is like, he's athletic and he's flexible, but he constantly got beat on the outside shoulder. So if you have flexibility and you have mobility, why are we constantly giving up outside shoulder? One, I think his set depth is very like choppy, very short, to where like he's not really set in 45. He's not really kicking vertical a whole lot. But my bigger issue is his play strength is like negative. I thought he got worked through his core quite a bit. And then another, like same with Rucci, I didn't see any sort of punch when he did land his hands. Does have a nice little snatch trap. Overall, I thought his hands were a little underwhelming as well. But NFL teams love big dudes who are fluid athletes. So I think he's going to get drafted pretty high just because of that.
Well, I mean, the same could be said for Rucci as well. That's a big dude. That's a big dude who can move as well.
Yeah, I don't know if he is as good of an athlete.
No, I don't think he's as smooth as Shelton is.
Yeah.
Sure. I know there's some people that have him as OT1. I think he's a day 2 guy. Mm-hmm. For like me, it kind of reminds me. For me, it kind of reminds me of how we talked about. Can't I think of his name right now? See, this is what happens. I get into the next class and I delete the last class. Left tackle from Oregon,
Connerly.
It's kind of how we talked about Josh Connerly, going into last year, where like we need to see the core strength, the play strength improve, and we need to see. You talked about the outside. I saw him a couple of times on 45s overshoot and allow.
Oh yeah, big time oversets. Yeah.
So like you're talking about a guy who is lacking play strength a little bit. Although you did bring up the snatch and trap, and I'm really glad that you did that because I think that his hands are really good. I think that both of the offensive tackles at Penn State have more accurate hands than I've been seeing from a lot of these other guys that we've watched so far this year. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. I don't think he's an overly naturally powerful player. And I thought that there were times in the run game where he got overwhelmed, and he got overwhelmed by some good players. I'm watching Ohio State, I'm watching Oregon, and there's times where they're spreading out their big hog mollies and kind of controlling him. But I also saw times in the run game where he was very intuitive, I guess is the way that I would say it, where like if he was a little bit out of position getting to the spot, he would just use his ass, like his shoulder blade and his ass to seal off rushing lanes. Like he's not worried about getting and flipping. He's doing what he can to get the block done. And I think a lot of guys try too hard to make themselves look pretty instead of just getting the job done the way that you can. And I think that there were times in the run game on stretch concepts where he just got the job done the way that he could. And so I was a fan of that. But
yeah,
I don't get the OT1 talk right now.
Yeah, sorry. I clipped it on Twitter. It was a clip where he scooped out Derek Harmon in the Oregon game, and he ends up losing his footing and he falls to the ground. But he crosses Derek Harmon's face and he scoops him out and clears a massive lane for Nick Singleton to run through, and then he falls on the ground. So it's not always the prettiest, but yeah, definitely is intuitive and can do what he needs to do to get that stuff done for sure.
Speaking of the Oregon game, we might as well move on to the big man.
Dude, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ione?
Olivavega?
Ola Ione?
Olivavega?
Yeah.
I don't know how to say the last name.
Yeah.
Is it Ion?
It might be.
Anywho, this is a large human being. And the reason I bring up the Oregon game is because Oregon had a very large human being on their defensive line. And I tweeted out not a clip of Jamari Caldwell and Olivavega, but of two sumo wrestlers going at one another in a GIF. And that's exactly what I thought of when I saw those two. Mm-hmm. Just two bears going at it against one another. This is a large and strong human being. I watched him get Derek Harmon between the pads on the breastplate, drive him 6 yards, and then slam him into the ground to the point where a defensive tackle would have gotten a 15-yard penalty against a quarterback and maybe thrown out of the game. Like this dude absolutely dominated him on a rep, and it was incredibly impressive. I also, in although he's a very large human being, I watched him scoop out a couple of guys on stretch concepts from the other gap. And so, like, I don't think he moves well enough to be a highly touted guy. But if you need just a brick wall on day 3, he might be your guy.
Very firmly a day 3 pick, but in my notes, I have Boulder in every sense of the word. So what I mean by that is, yes, heavy ass hands, dude. When he lands a punch, dude, like you see, like the Oregon guy, Jamari Caldwell, Derek Harmon, 2 drafted dudes. Derek Harmon's a first round pick. He lands a punch, and you see them like jilt back in their shoes when he lands a punch. But Boulder in every sense of the word, the dude has no flexibility in his hips or ankles whatsoever. He does not redirect. He's 100% a phone booth guy. 100% a phone booth guy, but he's kind of fun just to kind of watch him bully people when he can get him in a phone booth and stay frame to frame. The issues arise when guys get outside of his frame because he has no ability to hang at that point. But he's a funny little player, and by little,
he's quite large.
Quite large, yes.
Yeah,
but he's a fun player. Funny.
I agree.
Guy. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the other two, the Dawkins, the center, and the other guard? Because I think they're both pretty firmly UDFAs from what I saw.
No, I mean we if that's the way you feel, I didn't like sit down and study them. I watched them in the peripheral. Mm-hmm. And the right guard was shifted in and out quite a bit last year, right? So, I don't need to. There was nothing that I saw in the peripheral that made me want to talk about them. So I think we can get out of here in 30 minutes.
I think so too. So that's the Penn State offense. Again, we've got a flurry of defensive players to get through as well for that defensive episode.
They have a lot of upperclassmen.
They do have a lot of upperclassmen. Yeah. Which means they should be fairly good again, depending on how 15 plays this season for them. But we'll have an episode of Daft or Draft tomorrow to give us one more day to break through all these guys and get through all these guys. But until then, Dalton, do anything else for the people?
I love you guys.
Well, that's it. Until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast.